Hello everyone, welcome to the Superhero Rewind Commentary Project. It is I, Captain Logan, and joining me as always is my sidekick, Austin, the Day Ghost. Greetings, Austin.
How's it going?
What's up, man? Tonight we are tackling 2008's Hancock, because that's what showed up on the wheel, and somebody last week, one of our Rewind producers, put in a number of not-so-great movies. Was this from the same guy that put in 4 really bad movies, or was it somebody that legitimately likes this movie? I'm actually not even sure.
I actually don't remember offhand. It probably was.
It's not important or interesting to anybody, but just all of a sudden I was wondering about that. But yeah, we had kind of a mixed wheel where it was like half really good movies and half bad to mediocre movies, and we kind of pulled not the shortest straw, but a somewhat short straw in Hancock. So this, of course, is the original superhero movie, not based on anything except for a script, a much more hard R, edgy, kind of moody thing from 1996 that sat in a drawer and was in development hell forever. And ultimately it was turned into this much more kind of watered down, ostensibly not for families movie, but kind of forced into a PG-13 box so that it could attempt to dominate the box office. And shockingly, especially going back to it now, Austin, it sort of worked. This movie made a weird amount of money for what it is. I think coasting entirely on star power, and I guess just the kind of new wave of superhero. Like, if this comes out the year before, I wonder if it does as well just being a Will Smith star vehicle, given that this is the same year as The Dark Knight and Iron Man, and it feels like we're reinventing the genre, and as we've talked about a million times, with those two movies, and making quote-unquote more kind of real movies. That's how a lot of people felt about that. But you can see that like helping or hurting a thing like this, where it's like this could look real knockoff, like it's just, okay, we're like riding the superhero wave, there's so much of this stuff coming out all of a sudden, or it could just be, in the air and really kind of work. So in a way, I'm kind of surprised this did as well as it did, and I don't think if this comes out 3 or 4 years later, I think it tanks. I think it totally bombs.
Yeah, it's weird, because I also feel like this is to the early 2000s Marvel, especially X-Men stuff, what Mystery Men was to the Schumacher era of Batman. We're that's clearly what they're making fun of.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it would be like if Mystery Men came out the same year as Batman Begins.
But a lot of it has to do with marketing, because this wasn't marketed at all as a comedy or a parody. And it definitely comes off that way. But that was also kind of secondary, because it wasn't even intentionally put together to be that, but that starts to really kind of come out during it feels like the filmmaking process.
No, for sure. But yeah, I remember when this was coming out, it was everywhere. Like everyone was talking about it, and then there's a lot of hype around it, and then no one liked it.
Yeah, I think it just had a really good marketing campaign. I saw the overall box office. This did like 650 against a $150 million budget. Like I said, when you watch it now, it looks like a thing that tanked. And it didn't. I mean, I'm looking at this now, and this is the worst watch I've ever had of this. I watched it a couple of years ago, and it somehow watches even worse than it did then. I always saw this as more of a kind of mixed bag thing, where like there's some stuff to like, some stuff to not like, and then all of a sudden it has this really bizarre tonal shift where it turns into a totally different movie in by the second half. I mean, I still have that, but all of it watches rougher to me now. Like hardly anything about this holds up to me at this point. I'll just come right out and say that. It's just a mess, Austin. And so I wonder what the drop off was. Like was the advertising, was the campaign with this so good that even word of mouth couldn't hurt it somehow? Because it looked like just a fun but sort of like relatively edgier action vehicle, and I wonder what the drop off was from first to second weekend.
Yeah, I wonder if it was a huge one. I could definitely see that happening.
But anyway, Austin, I own the hilariously labeled one disc unrated edition. I don't entirely understand either what was different about it where it's unrated, because I don't think there's anything special about this cut. I don't think anything was added, or maybe it was one of those Fantastic Four Elektra things where it's like, there's 2 or 3 extra minutes or something.
I was gonna say, is it like one of those like the movie unrated cuts where it's like it wouldn't be this, but like with those it'll be like, oh, there's like one shot of boobs or something, so it's like this is like the unrated version.
Well, I didn't notice an F-bomb or a shot of boobs, so I don't think so. Yeah, kind of odd that even this didn't use its one PG-13 F-bomb, given that it's based on a script that was laden with them.
Well, this is co-written by Vince Gilligan, so I have to imagine it was probably like a rougher script. Not, like rougher. And
well, I don't know. So the original script from the mid-90s, written by one guy that nobody's heard of, was like read almost like an attempt at like a Tarantino thing. And I've skimmed it. It's real rough and tumble. It's also like filled with cliche language, like dialogue and stuff. It might be amusing at some point to review that script. I talk about this all the time, wanting to do some full-on podcast discussions on unmade superhero scripts, both for things that just never came out and first drafts, like with 89, because that was one of the most fun things to me to ever do on video, is just talking about that original Sam Hamm script. So I wanted to do that with some other things, and this would be an interesting one to do.
I was going to say, if it's amusing enough, we should do like a dramatic reading or something.
Oh, that's a funny idea too. Yeah. I don't think there'd be any really legal issues with a thing like that that's just out there.
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, we should revisit that. We should consider that idea for if not this, something like that's
for the 3 people that would be interested in that.
Yeah, I think it'd be more likely that I think 10 people would show up to listen to us talk about that script, and I think 3 people would show up to us performing it. So obviously we're going to perform
doing a dramatic reading of the Sam Hamm Batman script. That's what we want.
That's what all the comments are. All 3 comments? Well, 2. Yeah. Like 3 people show up, 2 people leave comments. Anyway, I digress. So we'll talk about this. The Vince Gilligan thing is baffling. It was like rewritten or like massively overhauled by Vince Gilligan, and then I think somebody else even wrote on top of him.
Okay, so it's just kind of one of those scripts that got passed around.
Yeah, and when he came in, I kind of think, I'm not sure if I'm right about this, but I imagine he was hired to lighten it up, which is odd, which is an odd choice, it being Vince Gilligan. And this comes out, by the way, the same year Breaking Bad starts.
Oh, that's even weirder.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure when that started.
But I almost guarantee you the script they started with is way weirder and more rough and tumble than whatever Vince Gilligan brought them, because the whole point of rewriting it, from what I've read anyway, seemed to be, well, we're gonna make this movie, but it can't be it can't be this rough, it can't be this depressing, it's got to be lightened up. So I don't know if his version had a bunch of F-bombs. It probably didn't.
So do you think that's why there's such a dramatic shift, like halfway through? And there's almost like segments in this movie where it's like, this is this section, this is this section.
I mean, it's almost like there's things in the first half that aren't rewritten to match the second half.
Yeah, because you see that with a lot of scripts that have been, passed around that long. Like, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull has that, where it's like there's scenes from like scripts going all the way back to the 90s.
I think it's various versions all sandwiched together, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Where I don't know that there was ever a full-on cohesive script with this. But the only thing I can be relatively sure of is that the only thing left from... Just what I've skimmed, because I haven't read the whole script, but from what I've looked at, I think probably about the only thing that's left from that original script is it's about a depressed, homeless. Well, I don't even know if he's homeless in the original script, but kind of down on his luck superhero, and that his name is Hancock, and like that might be it. Originally, the premise was it's a suicidal superhero.
Oh, okay.
And the whole thing sounds more interesting, but it also reads like, Dark Horse published it in the mid '90s when they published The Mask. Like, it's got that sort of tone.
Oh, okay. Interesting, though. That sounds like a neat idea, though.
Yeah. But anyway, I've already said about 2/3 of everything I wanted to say about this movie before we've started.
Well, good night, everybody. That's the review.
Thanks for watching, everybody.
Legend. Good night, everybody.
Yeah, the name of that original script was Tonight He Comes, which is a title that they held on to all the way up until they started shooting. Like, Will Smith came on with it still, with that title still intact. And then they changed it while filming to John Hancock, and then it dropped down to just Hancock.
That's probably a good idea. That original title sounds like a Santa slasher movie.
Well, it kind of does, but the original movie was also much more of like a dark thriller.
Mm-hmm. But even then, I don't know, that feels like a weird title for like this kind of a thing.
It kind of reads like it's more for like a Brightburn crowd or something. Not that that's a good movie, because I hate that, but anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. If you want to watch it with us, and we encourage you to do that, get out your DVD, Blu-ray, however you want to watch it. I don't know if this is streaming anywhere. I've got it on disc, and that's how I'm watching it, so I didn't even look that up.
So I only found it streaming here on Crave. I started it, and like 5 seconds in, they only have it in French, and I was like, oh, well.
Oh, so how'd you watch it?
I just found it online.
He's like,
I was like,
well, I just told you in French.
Oh yeah, I'm just watching the French stuff.
He's like, that's how I watched it. This is becoming an unfortunate theme with you lately, is you only watch things in a foreign language.
Yeah, at least with Batman Ninja it makes sense.
Yeah,
Watching
sure.
Hancock in French is a weird choice.
Austin's like, look, I'm not going to pay for this, so if I have to steal it, there's going to be consequences.
The consequences will be dire.
Will be disastrous. Anyway, so I don't know if a lot of folks will be able to watch this with us, but if you happen to own this because you're a masochist and you own every superhero movie like I do, or you, before we started this, went and got your hands on it, get it to timestamp 0. Get ready to press play. We're just about to get started. And let's get right into it. Chat with us if you're watching live. We'd love to hear from you, and give us your feelings and topics regarding this movie that you'd like us to hit. And as always, we'll guarantee that we talk about whatever you want us to, having to do with this movie, with a super chat. And let's get right into it. Everybody, please press play right now. Oh, once again, I gotta fix my audio. Hang on.
Oh, okay. For a second, I thought we were gonna have to start over.
No, sorry, I always do that. I always say that, and then you're like, okay, wait, you're saying wait. What does that mean? So, can I complain about something right away?
Yes.
The first thing I'd like to complain about is
the Columbia logo, of course.
Complete, like, tonal randomness of the music choice for this soundtrack. It'd be nice if Hancock had a sound, both the character and the movie. You know, like, what kind of music would this guy listen to, or at least what kind of music defines this guy? We use a lot of incidental popular stuff, and none of it goes together. It's like you gotta have some modern rap and hip-hop, you got like a blues song at the start of this, which is, like, this is a good example of not establishing tone well.
Well, I feel like this movie has a strange tone in general, where, like, I don't fully know exactly what the overall tone is. But, like, sometimes it's more dramatic, and then sometimes I feel like I'm in a sitcom.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, we can point to things like Guardians and like Deadpool to a lesser degree, things that find a good balance where they put the comedy up front, but when they get serious, you buy it. And this doesn't have that. It feels to me like a comedy from front to back, because whenever it does try to tug on your heartstrings, it does it in a super sappy kind of way. And I also just never really latch onto this guy and believe him, like believe in who he is. And I've got the same thing with the supporting cast too. And so that hurts you tonally. That makes it easy to be tonally inconsistent, because the script can't decide like who definitively its characters are.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of that, because you were throwing out movie titles, do you think that this is like an inspiration on the opening of Deadpool? Because I was thinking about that watching it this time.
No, I've never had that thought, but I could totally see it. That makes a lot of sense.
It just made me think of that, the way he like comes in into the truck and then takes them out. It probably isn't, but
yeah. So on paper, I certainly, especially when this comes out. By the way, all the flying in this looks kind of terrible.
Yeah, there's some really rough visual effects in this.
And to be fair to this director, he had not done a lot with, integrating special effects, big visual effects, and he's lamented that he was at the mercy of the visual effects artists a lot, because he just didn't really know how to put his vision, such as it was, with this stuff. But like I don't like the I don't know if I should say color palette or just the saturation, but like I don't like what this movie looks like.
Yeah, just the like muted color scheme.
Yeah, I just think it's kind of trying too hard. Where it's like everything visually about it is saying, look how edgy we are compared to your typical superhero movies, where it's trying to flip the script on Superman, which of course makes it hold up even less now, because we've seen 115 things since then that did that. So I don't want to hold that against it too much, because this was more novel when it came out. Certainly.
Yeah,
We've not had Kick-Ass yet. We were going to get Watchmen the next year. Deadpool is well in our future. Like a lot of that stuff hadn't happened yet. And so that's probably partly why I enjoyed this a lot more when it first came out, is just there was a novelty to it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, not Chronicle yet. I mean, a lot of the superhero in the real world kinds of attempts had not been made yet.
No, that's very true. Which makes it more surprising that it did super well, because A lot of those early ones, with the exception of Kick-Ass, didn't do great at the box office. I guess just the power of Will Smith.
Yeah, exactly. And as always, I mean, he does as good of a job as he can with this material, but I find myself kind of frustrated just wanting to watch better Will Smith movies. You know, like, why am I watching this when I could be watching Men in Black?
Mm-hmm. That's fair. I like that he is doing like something different, because like he does tend to go to just like cool guy Will Smith a lot. So like there's obviously elements of that in this performance, but like I do think he does a good job playing the like more depressed kind of angle.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, he definitely developed a character for this, at least while Hancock is, inebriated and checked out. When he sobers up, he's kind of more just Will Smith, which I'm not complaining about, because I kind of like that there's a contrast in the performances.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot more consistent than the female lead in this, who I feel like is playing like three completely different characters.
Yeah, and I feel like this movie has a really great cast, and then the script like completely lets them down. With like your main trinity of Will Smith, Charlize Theron, and Jason Bateman.
Yeah, which are actors that are just too good for this material, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with Jason Bateman, I feel like they're just going, just play Jason Bateman-y things. Like, you played this role a million times. Just do that.
One thing that, on this last viewing, I made it difficult for me to buy anything that was happening through this Austin is I didn't believe regular people's interactions and reactions to Hancock. Like, this movie is kind of screaming at me about how much more down-to-earth and realistic it is compared to your typical comic book adaptation. And you've got all of these people who don't seem to be driven whatsoever by survival instinct. They walk right up to an indestructible man with super strength that can murder them by barely touching them, and they're constantly pushing him to do that. To them. It's very strange.
Yeah, absolutely. This is, I think, a big example where I don't know if I buy this woman's reaction at the end of the scene, because she's like super into him, and I feel like the ways in which she's into him with like the power stuff, I feel like she would get a kick out of what happens.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I don't know that I buy that she reacts the way that she does after. Like,
no, I completely agree. Like, what was she expecting? The whole reason she wants to get with him is because, like you said, he has powers, and he's unusual, and she's excited to see what will happen. She wasn't really in any danger. Like he got away from her pretty easily. It seems like it's all off screen.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I guess the idea is just supposed to be like she was probably pretty close to dying, because he had to throw her away, and that probably didn't feel super good either.
Yeah. It is kind of funny when he's like, "Look, I warned you. You know, I tried to tell you what was going to happen." But the other thing that makes it difficult for me to buy this scene is Hancock. Seems kind of weirded out by this whole thing, or not weirded out, but the whole thing is just awkward for him. Where he's like, "Well, I mean, this girl's hot, so I guess I'll sleep with her," but she's acting, very kind of odd and isn't paying any attention to all my warnings, and. Then when off screen we're hearing them make a lot of noise while they're trying to start having sex, I'm not buying that he's at all aroused in the moment that he is supposed to be aroused. like it's completely unbelievable to me.
No, this is like an Austin Powers gag.
Like it happens too fast. There's also a lot of just kind of bad comedic timing in this movie. I think
Chewbacca's lover just gave $2 and said the scene isn't in the PG-13.
Oh, there you go.
I guess we're both watching the unrated cut.
Okay, so that's one of the, maybe the only reason, or at least one of the reasons, that my copy of this is unrated. I don't know why this Blu-ray feels the need to, or is this just a DVD? Why this DVD feels the need to brag about being only one disc. I still can't get my mind around that. It's the one. If you only have one disc, you don't need to tell you. You only need to say how many discs there are if it's more than one. You know, two discs. You go, oh, there's 2 discs. That means there's going to be special features and stuff. You just go, what, the one disc unrated version.
Is it because it's still kind of the period where movies were like the full screen and widescreen
I think
versions?
So.
Is it maybe just because of that, where it's like, just so you know, it's only one?
It's the latter days of the early days of DVD. That
you get what you get, and you get what you deserve.
You get what you deserve. The other thing that makes that sex scene very odd, Austin, is that there's no... So, again, we're trying to be relatively realistic in... Hancock's got superpowers, so he's got to be careful if he's going to sleep with a girl. There's no discussion about that whatsoever with the female lead who... What is her name? I just can't remember.
Charlize Theron.
I just... The character.
Charlize Theron.
Yeah, Mary. We went real generic with some of these names. You got Mary and Ray. And I don't even know if there's any sort of, attempt at a thematic thing with her name. Where, like, usually with a thing like this, you'd try to have a hint in her name at what she was going to end up being. But I don't know, like, because Mary is the mother of Jesus, not Jesus. So, like, I don't really know why that's her name.
That means that she's old.
Sure. Anyway,
but also,
not that you always have to do that, but it feels like a kind of a generic name. But sorry, what I was going to say is it's very strange that we make a big deal out of that, Austin, and then there's no discussion at all about how difficult it's been for her to hide her powers from her husband, and whether they're having a child together would maybe give the kids superpower. Like, we don't talk about any of that. It just never comes up. And she doesn't seem to have any difficulty whatsoever, forgetting about her powers entirely. Never mind the fact that when the two of them come together, the mythology that we're given tells us that they should start losing their powers when they're around each other. But I guess that takes a while just so we can have some scenes of them fighting.
Yeah, it takes a little bit of time. But I guess because...
Very convoluted. We'll get there. Anyway.
With that sex scene thing, it also plays it weird, because it's only the one thing that's, like, super... Like, it's not like the actual sex part is... Like, they don't really...
He's not worried about crushing her.
Yeah, which is weird, because it's like, oh, isn't it funny? Like, this is what it would be like. But it's only that one aspect.
Well, and those kinds of things always make me feel like we're pretending like Superman and other mainstream superheroes haven't dealt with those kinds of things. And especially by 2008, we go there all the time. Like, there's been tons, even on screen, both in animation and live action, Superman stuff that deal with whether or not he and Lois can have children together and whether they can even have sex. And, Smallville is into its 6th or 7th season by now and deals with that stuff a lot.
Yeah, and I guess there's talk about that in Superman 2 as well.
Right.
I wasn't even thinking about it in that way, but you're right.
Well, because it's just kind of acting like it's subverting stuff.
I guess it is kind of Deadpool-y in its way. Is this just the original Deadpool?
I think it is. I think Deadpool really improved on this material. Good job, Deadpool.
Congratulations.
You really are a better movie after watching this again. Indisputably. This is an extremely contrived situation.
It is. And this is the moment where I go, oh my god, this is so weird that this comes out in 2008. Because this comes out the same year as Iron Man, and the big demon in the bottle, like, oh my god, Tony's gone too far because he's drunk thing, is a thing with a train.
Oh, I forgot all about that.
And I was like, whoa. Obviously, that's, completely unintentional. I just thought that was a strange coincidence.
But really interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems just kind of easy the way he winds up in front of this train. Like, yeah, he's looking at his phone.
I don't know. I've been in this situations many times.
Have you really? Well, I mean, I know
I,
there was that one time you almost got killed by a train, but I don't think it was
I
this.
no, it wasn't this. I've almost been hit by a train at least 3 times at this point, but not like this.
Man, it just dumb ways to die is stuck in my head again.
I need to learn to be safer on trains.
And I guess I do appreciate that I'm sitting here going, well, God, Hancock, just fly up, and then that's what everybody else says. So, like, that's intentional.
Hmm.
I guess that's good. But it is kind of odd that he even needs Hancock to save him, because, like, the guy behind him says, just jump out. And then Hancock doesn't even really save his car because he's throwing it around everywhere. So, at the very least, he's completely destroyed his suspension. When he takes him back to his house, and he drops him in the car, which could have killed him, by the way.
It would have been funnier if he still died from that.
What I was going to say toward the beginning, I interrupted myself again, is I think that on paper there's absolutely the potential for an interesting, kind of like smaller, more intimate character piece with this.
I agree.
The moment where we get into the really generic god mythology, I'm very out. And even before that, it plays more generic than it should, and it's not as character driven as it ought to be. And it's odd because everybody involved talks about it like it's like the point of it is to be a character study, and I don't see that. You start with the hardest sell for me, which is Amnesia. And, well, in fact, you don't even start with it. I don't know he has amnesia until, like, almost halfway into the movie, which is very strange. Like, he doesn't start talking at all about his background until he goes out to dinner with them well later.
Yeah, I feel like you need a scene earlier on where somebody mentions his backstory and he's just like, like, and kind of hand waves it to let you know that you should be thinking about it. Because the way it plays, it just kind of drops it like, oh, yeah, by the way, I also have amnesia.
I would have liked that a little bit earlier, if not, straight up front. Because, look, I get that we're walled off from this guy because he is a loner and he's not talking to anybody and he's kind of just given up on everything. And the kind of inciting incident of this guy comes into his life to be a PR manager is a fun idea. And I just feel like there's a lot more you could do with the setup with this.
No, and at this point, I'm like, oh, there's a really cool Iron Man movie that no one will ever make in this section. But yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of stuff that on paper, maybe not like on a script level, but just on an idea level is interesting. And the movie just doesn't really find it. Like the pieces are all there.
Yeah. And Will Smith absolutely makes the case for being the guy to play it.
Yeah, I agree. I think you could do it just entirely with this cast.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know about the shift from being an Iron Man movie to a Hawkman movie by the end.
Yeah. Well, and you have this very odd moment here that's supposed to be a tell, I guess, that she knows him from the past, which just where the camera starts revolving around her. The music cue doesn't really work to tell you what it's supposed to tell you, and then everything about the way she treats him is off to me for what we'll learn about them later.
Yeah.
So the whole idea is supposed to be she's been avoiding him. She knows that they can't be together because their powers don't work around each other and he's destined to be a hero, even though she also talks about how it's not about destiny, but then every other line she has is about destiny. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. But she just acts angry with him basically all the way up until we find out that they're of the same god species, that he is crass and is solving all of his problems with violence. And again, Austin, if that's all it was, there's more of an interesting, intimate story there, where like these people could maybe rehabilitate this guy or attempt to. I wouldn't it be kind of interesting if and I'm rewriting it when I say this, which is not fair. But then this movie also rewrote the original thing, which was probably a little closer to what I'm talking about. So I'll bring it back around and say what I think is naturally in this material is a tragedy. You know, kind of like a chronicle of a guy that has these powers. Maybe deep down, this would make him more sympathetic. And this character, to a degree, is played sympathetic enough, I think, where he is shunning responsibility, doesn't want anything to do with the world, with society, with people, but obviously cares enough that he can't help himself but to go help when problems arise. And wouldn't it be interesting if you had that guy who is still so self-destructive that he just won't let himself live up to what these people want from him, and never achieves that by the end? Is the tragic character who refuses to change?
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's a lot more interesting. Also, this is the thing we were talking about.
Not everybody that naturally that just happens to have superpowers would become Superman.
Mm-hmm. No, exactly. This is also a thing we were talking about off camera, but just with what you were saying earlier, where like it's trying to give you a tell, but it's kind of failing at doing it. We were talking off camera about how if you don't know some of these actors, they maybe seem like not great actors just from this material.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, and I think one of the things with Charlize Theron, especially in that scene that you were talking about where like the camera flips around her, I don't know, the way that they're getting her to do some of that stuff is just kind of like stare dead-eyed with her mouth open. And there's a lot of places where I'm like, I feel like if you don't know that she's a really good actress, there's places where she just feels like generic lead woman in this.
Well, she looks kind of lost in the material. Like what that look should tell you is it should be a look of recognition, not confusion. Like
like a really dark look about how she sees this disaster coming in on their home.
Well, yeah, I mean, it should make you wonder if she's going to end up being, for this family dynamic anyway, kind of our main antagonist. And I'll go as far as to say, I think another better direction for this movie to go would have been if she was the villain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can talk about that more in a second.
That's what we were doing, and then
yeah, we can talk about that more in the second half. But
yeah.
That seems like a more natural direction for it to go, where maybe like she's in hiding because she was at one time like a ruthless evil demigod, and then decided that she didn't want to be like that anymore, but she's hiding this like deep dark past where like he was the hero and she was her and she was his like arch nemesis, that maybe they had a fling at one time. So it's like the Clark Lex thing, but with a romantic angle.
You could also do a thing where they were just both villains, and like if you want to do the Amnesia thing,
yeah, that's good too.
And like she got out of it after
don't you know who you really are? Like you're Lord Zed, but you don't. But you want to think that you're a Power Ranger. Like yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and she's like, oh my god, like I settled down with this family and now this guy's back. Like I remember all the stuff we used to do.
That's a better excuse for the Amnesia.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the cool philosophical question of, is he responsible for all the horrible things he did if he's not that guy anymore?
Mm-hmm.
This is not fair. I don't mean to sit here and just completely rewrite the thing.
But there's a moment where I think he's talking to her and he's like, what did I do like in my past or something? That kind of played like that where I was like, oh, are we going to do something where he was maybe a bad guy back in the day?
Sure.
And they don't really. So like, I don't know if it's entirely rewriting it. Like, I mean, it is kind of
because that's overall, not what they actually, where it actually goes.
But like, I feel like there are pieces that can still bring you to that.
I also wonder if moments like the camera spinning around her weren't reshoots.
Yeah, possibly. Did this have a lot of
It
reshoots?
did.
Oh,
And
okay.
I would like to know at what point in the production the choice was made, like the mythology choice was made, because I'm not 100% convinced that they came in with that with the initial script.
Hmm.
I've always said that this watches like the first half watches like a movie and the second half watches like its sequel.
Hmm.
But on this watch, Austin, I also think there's another way to look at it. Maybe I've said this in the past. I can't remember. But all these things we're revisiting that I reviewed a million years ago. But another way to look at it, I think, Austin, is a movie that is missing its second act.
Yeah, it
I
definitely has some of that.
your your first act plot point is arguably the setup, and then it kind of just jumps right to the third act. I
So,
I'm done with the asshole thing about the second time it comes up, and it's another
so
thing that makes all of these characters feel not like real people to me because everybody comes to that word. Nobody thinks to call him like a jerk or an f head or anything. It's just asshole. That's all. That's all you have.
So this is Rob Zombie's Michael Myers, and in this scene, I'm like, oh my god, it just became a Rob Zombie scene, where like every single sentence has some sort of curse word in it. It just became really annoying.
Except every sentence has the same curse word that
Yeah,
all these people come to
and it's not the F word.
independently, which makes you wonder if in the original script maybe it was a harder word. Because we know that the ratings board gave this an R twice, and they kept having to change things to bring it down to PG-13. Apparently, there was some kind of statutory rape thing. Was one of the big things they took out.
Oh yeah, I saw someone. Oh, it was Bob the Hun in the chat mentioned something about that, but that's really weird. I'm
Jason
guessing one of them is that sex scene since they took it out, which is weird because it's really tame.
Jason's out tonight, but I apparently noticed we were broadcasting, and he's in a car somewhere, and he put in a comment and said, "Fun fact: if you call Austin an asshole, he'll punch you in the face."
Oh, especially French people. And I live in Canada, so like I see a lot of them. That's what they say to you every time you see them. They're like Pokemon, where they only say their name, except they only say asshole, and then you throw them into the sky.
Some of this comedy played for me better back in the day. I don't know why it held up better then than it is to me now, Austin. But like, I just didn't laugh at it very much that it wanted me to this time around.
I mean, that could also just be a part of the novelty of it all.
Sure. Yeah, I think Kick-Ass really hurts this.
Oh, Kick-Ass really hurts this.
Something else that I don't know if I've ever talked about that I don't think I thought of until watching this yesterday is you remember on I forget which stream it was Austin, we streamed together a lot. Remember we had a conversation recently about black superhero movies before you get to Black Panther, and that the only really serious ones were Blade. And we talked about how every other one we could think of was kind of a flat
Comedic.
out comedy, and Hancock did not come up in that conversation. We forgot all about this movie,
That's true.
and it also fits in that mold, and it wasn't supposed to originally, but it ends up also turning into one of those.
Oh my god, sorry, I did not notice this watching it earlier today. But what the hell is up with this YouTube watermark that keeps shifting between
They
cuts?
paid some money. pretty
Yeah,
pretty clearly. Jason and I were making fun of that. We were like, even back then, there wasn't a giant YouTube watermark.
because
And
when you're going into it, it's on the right side. When it cuts back and they're watching it, it's on the left.
yeah, it's so
And
weird. And they must have paid for that product placement because very
I,
often in a movie like this, you'll make up some other name for what YouTube is in that universe. So if it's actually YouTube, they probably paid for it, and that's why it's got a big ass watermark.
mhm. Yeah, exactly. But sorry, I cut you off there. What were you saying?
Oh, that's all right. I don't remember.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Oh, it was about the black superhero thing.
Okay,
And how the
before I
student
get
came
back
up.
to that,
Yeah,
I have to complain about these comic covers.
how they look like kids' coloring books that you can buy at like the dollar store,
Well, I was going
not
to say
like
they look like
official
dollar store
ones.
comics because I have seen actual published comics that look that generic. But
Mhm.
how on earth are you pathetic enough to put a comic in your movie that with a character named Superhero? Good lord. Like Volcano or Volcan or whatever that was, I can live with that. What superhero? Like we're gonna go that generic? That's you don't get more generic than that. We're making a superhero movie. The I have to assume somewhat a somewhat popular superhero in this universe. It was the first one in his stack.
Oh, dude,
Is
wait till you see Richard Donner's
superhero.
superhero.
Sorry, say it again.
Wait till you see Richard Donner's superhero. That movie changed the landscape of cinema.
You'll believe that a superhero can be a superhero.
And then 10 years later, you had Tim Burton's Dark Hero.
I was embarrassed about that, and then also there was no reason for that moment except just to.
It's not even like that's the type of suit he's gonna wear, because he's gonna wear a X-Men costume.
No, it's not about that at all. It's just him. It's just this guy presenting the idea of superheroes to Hancock with comics to almost to try to. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it watches things like that. Watch to me, Austin, like trying to score points with comic fans, where it's like, look, everybody, we know that these things originally came from this medium, so that medium, it's like we're checking a box. So that medium has to be in here somewhere, and I'm like, well, there's a creative way to do that. Like, I'm all for have some kind of comic connection because you're from because the idea that you're dealing with originated in that medium. You know what else hurts this movie that came out before it? Unbreakable.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Which the original script is a little closer to, it seems like, but again, with much more Tarantino-ish. But
Yeah,
just
for
in
sure.
that it feels like more of a gritty, like real lived-in sort of world.
Yeah, and I guess more than like checking the box of like, look, we know that comics exist. I guess like for me, it's more of like a, don't worry, we ain't one of those silly funny books. We're not no superhero.
Yeah, it's just protesting too much. It's trying too hard.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know.
Or not trying hard enough. I'm not sure how I want to put that, really, because it's also lazy.
Yeah, I'd rather read that superhero comic.
Okay, so we do have a look from her when he says only one of his kind that does look a little bit more tip-offing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the way we're having her play it is really inconsistent. It's almost like there are some scenes where the actress knows and some scenes where she doesn't.
Well, if it's maybe a movie that was reshot a lot, like it could be that they shot scenes where that's not really what she's reacting to.
Yeah, that's possible too.
Because like I said, Charlize Theron's a great actress, but there's just places in here where I feel like she's given a strange performance, and I put it down more to directing than her. But I don't know.
Okay, so you don't put the guy with super strength at the front of the line when you chain all the prisoners together, because that happens. I'm sorry to say though that one of the few moments I laughed at was that I did think that was actually sort of funny.
He should have said
the way that looked, which means I'm actually laughing more at the pratfall humor than anything that's ostensibly supposed to be clever.
He should have said, "I'm not chained to you. You're chained here with me."
Yes. So I'm being really hard on this movie. It is just the I always say I'm reviewing based on the last watch I had of it, and in this case with a commentary project, I'm reviewing based on that watch and the one we're having now. This is not winning me over anymore while we're watching it right now. Unlike the experience we had last week, but I could not shake the feeling that I was watching a combination of two movies, Austin, because this feels so much older to me than it ever used to. I mean, it's 16 years old now. It's kind of crazy how long this has been. But in a year where again we're reinventing the genre and doing really like bold game changing stuff, we've got a movie that very much feels trapped in the 4 or 5 years before it, and it feels like a weird combination of Daredevil and Catwoman to me.
Oh, okay.
Because a lot of the awkward humor it reminds me of Catwoman, and also the look of it is a little bit like that. And then I will try to point out some of the places where it reminded me of Daredevil and felt like it was just straight up ripping off things from that. But the action climax at the end of this has a bunch of Daredevil in it. It's like water inside, and it's shot really similarly to that. And anyway,
Bob the Hun just gave $5. He said the original script had him with a troubled 12-year-old. That was the main relationship instead of Jason Bateman. Like they replaced him.
Yeah, and you could have had that without the statutory rape angle.
Well, I'm guessing that's different because he also said earlier that was a 17-year-old, while this one's a 12-year-old.
Maybe we're talking about a later script that rewrote it. Because that first script, I think, and again, I haven't read all of it, was supposed to be Hancock and a kid.
Because I think I like that idea a little bit more.
I do too.
Like, this kid is going to teach him what it means to be a superhero more than this like 40-year-old man that's like, look, you can be like my superhero.
Well, here's the thing: the PR guy is a fun idea if it's a comedy.
Yeah,
but so if they felt like they had to retool it and make it a comedy, like I'm not against that. I think you could make it work.
You know what it should have?
It's possible that there could have been a mask situation here where you start with a really rough and tumble, and I keep using that phrase, and maybe not in a especially mature thing, and then you end up with a comedy that somehow actually works better and is a little bit smarter. Could have happened. What were you going to say? Sorry.
No, I was going to say, you know what it should have been is you have both. Where like you have like the kid that's like, this is how you become Superman, and you have the PR guy that's like more like the cynical side where we're doing more of the satire angle, where it's like this is how you make yourself look good, and you have like the kid angle that's like this is how you actually be good.
Yeah, absolutely. It's also possible that one of the reasons the kid was changed was to not make too many direct comparisons with Unbreakable. But if it was a girl, I don't think you would.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that's a different situation because it's like the guy's actual kid. But like there is a prominent like child in that.
Yeah, I guess similar, but like not too close.
Dan Schneider put in a $5 super chat that's not about this movie, so I'll read it real quick. But he just said, "Can we get this is related to something we talked about the other day? Can we get a full GNN on who is more evil, Hitler or Joker? We need a full video on this."
Where does Hancock fit in this dichotomy?
Look, Hancock's not evil, okay? He's just misunderstood and has amnesia. So cut him some slack.
Yeah, but if
cut him
Superman,
a little slack.
It's like I don't know. This guy might have some ideas than Hancock might, because he's worse than Superman.
I think that GNN would be really edgy, Austin. And if we did that, I would write it out as long as humanly possible.
We should just be calling each other assholes in French accents.
I would get an hour out of
that.
Joker is an asshole.
But now we just sound more like Fire Fist. Wade, you are my friend, but you're an asshole.
And I'm sorry, this isn't funny.
Mm-hmm.
we've got this montage where we're cutting back and forth to Jason Bateman trying to get Hancock to say good job. And it's like it's not your like I'm sorry. Like I don't feel like it would be that difficult for that character to just say that out of context. You know?
Mm-hmm. No, it's unfortunate because I love Jason Bateman. He's a really funny actor, but we're just not giving him good stuff to work with.
You also could have made this whole thing a satire about famous people and public relations, and like can you come back from, we wouldn't have talked about it like this back then, but like can you come back from cancellation, you know? Mm-hmm. like the superhero that's caused a lot of property damage that has to go on the apology tour.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like there's definitely stuff to mine with that could have been interesting and fun. And once again, this is your actor for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like have him going around the city, like getting even with everyone. Not in like a bad way. I sort of in like a way like he's gonna kill everyone. But yeah,
we need to have this feeling, especially by this point, that these two have a history that Hancock doesn't understand. And the way you do that is through, and you can't force this, mm-hmm. but you've got to have some real honest to God chemistry and sexual tension between these actors, and I'm not seeing that. So it's so out of left field. In the theater, it was an absolute gut punch when it turns out that that's what she was reacting to. That he's got amnesia and they used to be a thing, and more than that, that they are supposedly physically drawn to each other, because that's not at all what happened. Mm-hmm. You know, like this is why I'm complaining that she has a line where she says, you know, the Terminator thing, like no fate but what we make, but she also says that like we can't help it, you know, we're magnetized to each other. Like I'm not seeing that in the performances, but also you basically just said that the universe brought us back together, which is fate, because the two of them had nothing to do with winding up in the same room together. He just happened to save her husband and take him to her place where she was. He was not physically drawn to her in any way.
I guess the magnetism that attracts them works like what is it, 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon or whatever, where you can like link it through people.
That's exactly right. That's one of the many things that makes it feel like you just blended a bunch of different scripts together. You know, it's frustrating in the same way Power Rangers 2017 is, and that movie was also very much had that problem, where it was just a bunch of like different ideas, maybe even different pages from different scripts, like all shoved in together and
written Todd McFarlane style, 2 pages at a time.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, speaking of Todd McFarlane, like once again, I can't help but think of Spawn. It's like we gotta start with the Amnesia, and and then your background is really convoluted, and then you never really sell me on you know, why it's compelling that this guy has no memory.
Yeah, the second you were like, this does remind me of Spawn, all I could think of is like, oh my god, this is like Spawn if in like issue 25 they retconned it and they were like, oh, by the way, I have amnesia.
Yeah, and I'm a Greek god or something.
Oh, Todd.
There's also the elephant in the room of, if they're the only 2 gods left, or not even really just the fact that all the other ones died, but just like they were, she says, built to be together. I don't even know what that means. Like, built by whom? Are there like greater gods than they are that make the gods? Is it like a Wonder Woman thing where they start from clay? Like, you know, if you're going to go to this mythology place, give me a little bit more so it doesn't seem so arbitrary and like you're throwing D20s to come up with all the details, right? But...
Well, it feels kind of like sequel baity in that way, where like I feel like if they're getting a sequel, like that's where they bring in more of them and you get more into that mythology.
But why are they completely different ethnicities?
Just because.
Yeah.
Like the same way the Eternals are, like just they are.
Yeah, well that's a little odd in that movie too, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's not really something that, like, I really think about, like, either way, but, like, it is, I guess, strange.
Well, it's just, people are of different ethnicities because they're from different parts of the planet. Like, why do the gods do it that way? You know what I mean? Like, it's sort of an odd idea. It's like, we're drawn to each other, we're supposed to be together, but we look like we come from different parts of the planet. Like, I just don't really understand why. It's kind of odd. There's maybe an argument with Eternals of the celestial beings that made them. We're gonna put them on different places on the planet. It's been too long since I've seen that movie. I cannot remember now. All of the details with that, but
that movie's got like 8,000 plot points.
Yeah, because it's like 3 seasons of television.
It's like 6 comic runs.
But yeah, we are 45 minutes in and we still don't actually know that he has amnesia.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Like,
yeah.
How does that happen? Like, how is there not a point where you revise to put that in earlier?
Yeah, when are we going to get to the premise?
Did they add that at the last second at the end of the script and then the writer's strike happened?
And the thing is, it's not a problem if it's a very simple story, right? Like, if the idea is just, this is a guy, and I mean, like, you'd want it fleshed out a little bit, but I can go 45, 50 minutes before you tell me that this guy had, like, a tragic backstory with maybe a typical abusive parents. He didn't have the sort of guidance. He didn't have an Uncle Ben that would lead him to having a good sense of power and responsibility. So it takes him making good friends by the time he's middle-aged to get a sense of perspective where he finally develops that. But he's got a good heart that you could mine in the first place. So you could do that, and I'm not going to mind that you didn't give me all of that in the first place, but for it to be this convoluted background where he doesn't know where he came from, he just knows that he doesn't age, and that he had a movie ticket to what was it, Frankenstein?
Yeah, it's Frankenstein.
Which is also kind of an arbitrary choice, right? Like, if I'm writing a script like this, I want all those details to be, like, thematically connected in some way. Is it Frankenstein because he was built by some being? Like, I don't think we thought any of this out. And his suit is boring.
Yeah, it's just the X-Men suit.
Yeah, which a
like
guy in the mid credits says.
Well, it's like the superhero movie version of the X-Men suits.
Now, his interaction with the lead cop on the scene, I think, is actually kind of okay. And sort of funny.
But his big, like, superhero theme when he flies in is like a cross between, like, the news is just starting and the Donner Superman theme.
Yeah, well, no, it's straight up the start of the Donner Superman theme, which they don't earn, and it actually kind of bothers me that they were allowed to do that. And I'm like, no, you don't get that. Sorry. You guys can't have that. Was this put out by Warner's? No, this is a Sony movie.
Of course it was. No, I had to think about it for a second, but yeah, it was Columbia. That's right.
Yeah. So this is a good.
There's the one F-bomb.
Oh, I forgot they had that. There it is. This is a good example of a joke that kind of works okay and then goes on too long, which retroactively ruins the initial joke. when he goes up to her and says, "Do I have permission to touch your body?"
Mhm.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. And then it keeps going.
They predicted the MCU gap.
That's true. And Ghostbusters 2016.
Hancock, if no one's laughing, no one's saved.
But yeah, the part where he says "good job" and then the other guy goes, "I said you said that." That's pretty good. I'm giving it what I can give it.
You gotta. This is the Wonder Woman scene from the Snyder Cut.
Oh wow, that's true.
I guess it's in both cuts of that.
But yeah, it starts to have a little bit of charm now all of a sudden. And just as it might be winning me over, it takes this hard left turn. Or it becomes a completely different movie that I didn't sign up for.
No, it's literally like they got to this point in the script and they were like, I mean, the movie's kind of over. Let's just start a new movie.
That's exactly right. Well, the natural thing to do here, I think, is one step forward and two steps back, right? Where he gets a big win, and then somebody pisses him off and he takes it too far again.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where he starts to get too cocky and is seeing himself more as more heroic and altruistic, and he thinks he has made greater strides than he has, and then he realizes he's got a lot more work to do. And that's your second half, you know.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, in an interesting way, or potentially a good way to restructure this would have been to not have him get arrested until the second act of the movie. Maybe make that like your first act plot point, where he people are calling for his arrest and stuff, but working with the PR guy, he goes, well, maybe I can get people on my side and start to see me as the city superhero. So then he does this, and he saves the day with this bank robber, right? And then there's like a second crime that he deals with where he full on gets somebody killed, or like massively injures a bystander or something like that, and then his arrest is really being called for, and then the PR guy says, yeah, no, you've got to go to jail and make it right, and so he does.
Mm-hmm.
There are about 4 or 5 really natural ways to take what's here and turn it into something.
This movie really just is a highway where there's all these exits it could take, and it just doesn't take any of them. And then it takes the last exit, and it's the wrong one. They're in the wrong city.
They do sell me okay on the correct thing to do here is cut off the guy's hand.
But then the payoff joke for that is so bad.
Oh, I don't remember what it was.
They rip it off like right out of Anchorman. Jason Bateman cuts off his other hand, and he's like, "Oh, like." Really?
Oh, that's true. They do that too. Well, that was one of the other things that makes it Daredevil. He's Bullseye. He loses both of his hands.
And he's Irish.
And sorry, he's what? Oh, yeah, he's Irish too. That's right. Okay, so how do you feel about the fact that this movie basically has no villain until the 11th hour? Like, could you do a version of this that just isn't interested in a typical full-on supervillain? Or is part of the problem with this that it doesn't have one?
I think there's 2 ways you can go. Either A, it doesn't have a doesn't have a supervillain, and it's more an internal struggle, which I think is fine. Or like this is just where you bring out the villain thing, where it's like now that he's become more of a hero, that is like how we create the villain. You could have gone that route too, or
your third option is the villain is Charlize Theron, but then you're still stuck with this weird second half turn that I don't like.
Yeah. No, exactly. The villain becomes the media.
Yes, that's good too.
I get like you
Well,
could have
again,
had like,
your satire about public relations, yeah.
or you bring in like a Jameson now, where it's like, I'm not falling for that PR stuff. I
So
know.
I do not know why the guy from Big Bang Theory is in this scene.
I don't know
It's like we got
either.
to give that guy a cameo, and you get the sense that there was probably more there at one time because that's a recognizable actor. It's really odd that he just shows up. Like it's like a Stan Lee cameo. Like it's like an early Stan Lee cameo. I don't know why he's there.
They're just really big fans of Christmas Vacation. That show must be like pretty early on though at this point, no?
It was getting traction. I think it was in its second or third season by then.
Oh, okay.
I'll look that up and make sure. But no,
Yeah.
I'm not even convinced that's why he's here. But it is kind of odd that he's here. Dan Schneider says this felt really edgy back then. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really weird going back to this. Just like how old it feels now.
Well, it doesn't just feel like it's, made from like a previous, like the last era that we made superhero films in. It feels like it's like two or three over.
Yeah, well, and again, I want to be as fair to it as I can. Like, we have done some of what this movie is wanting to accomplish, especially in like darker superhero comedy and in superhero in a relatively more real looking world, better than it, and so it hasn't aged great because of that. But it had all kinds of problems in '08.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've talked about it quite a bit already. Like, there's so many routes that this should have taken that it just doesn't. There's so many ways
that
that
I
I feel
don't
like you can
think
improve this.
yeah, and routes that I don't think we're suggesting based too much on what came after it. Like I don't think that's a retroactive complaint.
No, I don't think so either.
Because I was
It's
frustrated with it when it came out.
it's not like we're like, oh, it should have had that 12-year-old and she could be a ninja that swears a lot.
Sure, yeah, exactly. Or he should be more like Deadpool, or this should be more like Watchmen, or
Mm-hmm. No, exactly. It should be more like Catwoman because it's already in that route.
well, in a weird way, at least it would be more consistently bad. Like one of the things that's frustrating about this is just how much potential there is in it. There's no potential in Catwoman.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was dead on arrival.
Did you know that he woke up with amnesia and he had nothing in his pockets but knives and lint?
I well, Ray is a complete moron in this scene because Hancock just told him the names the name of the main actor in the movie that he had the movie ticket for. And Ray's response is, "Why didn't I hear about any of this in the newspaper?" Like it's it's supposed to be a reveal in that moment to the audience how long ago it was. But we already know that if you've ever heard of Boris Karloff, and everybody has.
I mean, it could be like a re-release.
I mean, it could, but it seemed like that's the reason he said. That's the obvious reason that he says that.
No, it definitely is. But like, I don't know, they live in LA. I'm sure that stuff's playing all the time. But he is definitely a little dull.
But he's very
Dull
slow in
in
the
the
update.
brain. Mm.
Well,
His
and
brain's a little smooth.
I'm gonna get ahead of myself a little bit. Oh, by the way, all of the music in this scene reminds me of the rooftop music in the with the rain scene in Daredevil. Like a lot of the production of this is reminding me of Daredevil, also not just plot points,
Mm-hmm.
and some of the like close face shots and stuff. Like there is some Mark Steven Johnson in this. And this actually makes Mark Steven Johnson look like a better director to me in some places.
Yeah, and he also has a lot of those issues where it's like he's got like an idea he wants to do, but he can't really get there. But like better than this does.
Well, something and I should have said this earlier. Something Jason and I came to, like, because he watched this with me again. He had seen this before. And we both just looked at each other and we were like, I didn't remember this being this bad. We got 10 minutes in and we started talking. We couldn't unsee it once we saw it. We started talking about how this movie, and I think nearly every scene looks like a commercial. Like, I'm talking all the time about movies like Daredevil, like most of what Snyder makes that look like music videos. This doesn't have that. This looks like it's selling, like, cars and hand cream and, like every scene, it feels like a commercial.
Capital One.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hadn't had that thought, but
you won't be able to unsee it now, I promise you.
I mean, I guess I had that with the tornado scene. That looks like one. You know those commercials where it's like the car tie-in for like an action movie, where it's like the Rogue One SUV. It's like one of those.
They fly now. Asterix. The cars do not fly now. That looked like a commercial, but it also looks like The Day After Tomorrow.
That was the scene where
2012.
I was really thinking of disaster movie because Hancock's in that, and I was like, "Oh no, I shouldn't be thinking of Hancock's scene in disaster movie."
Things are about to get really awkward.
Oh.
Yeah, so I'm gonna get ahead of myself for a minute, in case I don't remember to mention this later, and just say, I keep coming up with examples where characters are just. I'm kind of confused about what they're about, and the movie doesn't track people real well. So, what is with the fact that Ray abandons his stupid heart project? He's like, no, it's gonna be all about Hancock now. That's my project. Mm-hmm. And then later, he uses a meeting about Hancock to go back and sell his heart thing, which he's already dropped. Mm-hmm. Like, it's like the movie keeps forgetting what it said.
I think he maybe goes back to that because that's after Hancock destroyed his house, and all of that's really weird.
Well, give me a conversation about it, but also, how's that lucrative? There's no money in it. He needs to go wash dishes at a restaurant. Like, I don't understand that.
And how does this not wake him up? Like, there's a throwaway line in the next scene, but like, no, it's dumb.
There's a joke where she goes, "I can't believe you slept through that," but she's talking about the dumb excuse she made, and I'm like, no, I still don't know how he slept through it. You threw the man through your house. Dan Schneider, $5 super chat. Thanks for the super chats, man. He says, I remember people talking about the hand scene a lot and how twisted it was. At the time, people seemed to really like this movie. Well, I guess I'm just desensitized now because I feel like we do that kind of thing on TV a lot now.
I guess in the genre, but like even then, I feel like stuff like Wolverine and things like that are maybe a little rougher. I don't know.
But just the idea of cutting a hand off a detonator like that, like, we didn't even see it happen. It's played majorly for comedy. Like, I feel like Smallville would do that gag. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if that would, like, they would go to that, like severing it, but
I mean, we did do that. It's a different situation, but there is a severed hand in second season Smallville. Like, I feel like that show would do that.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I'm thinking more of stuff like the X-Men movies.
And Super really says, $2 super chat, the movie definitely has a Michael Bay aesthetic. In places.
Yeah, it's not enough set like right when the sun's either setting or rising.
And now we're playing this for comedy, and it's just not funny.
Now we're in My Super Ex-Girlfriend.
Yes, I was. Yep, I had flashbacks to that too, which is why I didn't sleep last night.
How are those eggs not broken?
I have the same question. So this will be the second dumbest thing Ray, maybe the first, the most dumb thing, but the second in a row really dumb thing Ray will say, after the thing I mentioned a minute ago. So here in a little bit, he's gonna go, wow, it's really hot in here. And I'm like, well, it's probably warm outside. And there's a big ass hole in your wall, and it barely counts as being inside anymore. What are you talking about?
Look, yeah.
What a stupid thing to say.
That's a lot of fish. I don't know. Yeah. Why'd you say that?
Why did you say that?
Well, and all the jokes here, like I'm surprised the joke wasn't she like opens up the fridge and she pulls out the eggs and they're just smashed, and she turns back and she's like, "We need to do groceries,"
and she
or something.
Couldn't control herself enough to not throw him through a wall. Like that whole thing is really contrived to me too.
Oh, it's super contrived.
You know,
she literally put a hole in her wall.
This is a Spider-Man sting in the
I was
here.
just about to say that. Yep. It absolutely is.
Bob the Hun, My Super Ex-Girlfriend is the worst thing you ever reviewed. It's maybe like a 3 or 4 way tie, but it's right in there with a couple other things. Yeah.
What are the other things? I'm curious.
Son of the Mask is in there.
Sure.
You're not gonna like it when I put Super in there, but
Super's way better.
I do kind of feel that way.
Girlfriend, and the other one you said, Son of the Mask.
If your name is Austin, sure. Mine is not. So.
In general. That's heartbreaking.
I hate all this sitcom stuff.
Oh, I know.
Like, what does this movie want to be, Austin? It's like it's doing that thing, right, where it's trying to be accessible for too many different audiences, and can't integrate all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just go there. I hate the argument sometimes of there's something for everyone, because you want all the something for everyone to be wrapped up all together, where things are kind of layered. Like I always said, and obviously this is a bad example because it doesn't end well, but I always said this about Lost, where like it's this layered thing where for some people it's about the sci-fi and the philosophy, and for some people it's just about the relationship drama. But like there's something there for everyone the whole time. Like it's all together. It keeps doing all of that. I don't want there to be something for everyone, but you have to give me the timestamp of when it's my thing now.
You know what? Like really hurts that aspect of it. Like the fact that it was kind of like a darker comedy, and now it's more sitcom-y. Is the fact that this comes out the same year as Iron Man, where it starts really dark,
yes,
and it becomes very pratfall-y, and then becomes just like a superhero movie.
But it earns all of that because it feels like we're tracking it. We're tracking our protagonist, and we're with him all the way through. Mm-hmm. And that's what life is like. You've got, you know, it ebbs and flows. You've got different like tonal moments in your life like that. But like I get that guy and what he's going through.
Mm-hmm.
And he's making the right choices by the middle of the movie, so he gets to have fun for a bit.
Yeah, and
that's
then
why
also
all
once
that
we
works.
get back to, you know, now he's Iron Man, we immediately get really dark when he goes to the town.
Yeah, because, well, right, and then, like, it does degenerate a little bit at the end into typical, you know, superhero fighting schlock, but he, you know, he's being challenged by Ironmonger by the end.
Yeah.
As
and even though you're
big
right,
personal threat to his company, big threat to the world.
Yeah. And even though it does degenerate, like, we are following that as it happens, and then that sequence is also just shot a lot better. Like, even though, you know, in terms of writing, like, Obadiah Stane gets a little dumber by that point. Like,
well, it kind of feels like we're watching, and this is maybe like a cop-out argument for it, but why is she wearing an open shirt like this? Like she's mad at him. She doesn't want to have to explain all of this to him, and she shows up like she's strategically wearing something revealing to try to turn him on for some reason. It's preposterous.
Well, then the first thing she
says,
is
she wearing
do you want to do it? Like, all that's definitely intentional, and we have she's like put on crazy like Matrix leather heels.
Yeah, and eyeshadow, like crazy makeup now, because the movie's trying to tell it maybe she's the bad guy now.
Now
why is she dressed like this?
now we're in an action movie, but they're 10 years too late.
Yeah, exactly. And I just don't get why exactly she's treating him like this.
Can you also explain to me why he can fly and has super strength, but she has like those powers plus heat plus storm?
Because we're told that she's stronger than him.
Yeah.
And so I assume it's a female versus male thing, but we're not told that.
But it's also weird because it's like the stronger thing I would think would just imply, because we get it here.
Yeah, it would imply that she's physically stronger.
She's just physically stronger.
But
She has his powers, but she's stronger.
But
like, why is it she also has, like, it's like he's Donner's Superman and she's Lester's.
Yes,
Superman.
that's great. But that's awesome. But yeah, that's the only thing I can come up with is that stronger meant more powers.
Yeah, like, why can she control the weather and make Jiffy Pop pop?
Well, and it's also like Lester because it feels like they're just arbitrarily throwing more powers on top of her as it goes.
Yeah, and just to have like silly, crazy action sequences. There's a point where I'm surprised she doesn't just like throw like a cellophane S out of her chest.
So yeah, I don't get why he's suddenly going back to this heart thing. It would you could do a character arc with him. Oh, and by the way, now the soundtrack has completely changed again. It sounds like The Mask out of nowhere, or The Incredibles or something.
Well, it's because her outfit is smoking, I guess.
Yeah, it's not just the soundtrack; it's also the score. Like it's all over the place.
I do think it's funny that she does this crazy thing, puts sunglasses and tries to disappear into the crowd. I do think that's amusing.
Don't you think she could have been really smarter about like figuring out a way to get rid of him early on, instead of it all degenerating now into this shouting match about how I'm just frustrated, this never works out, like you've got to go away. But yeah, I think you could have you could have had a character arc with Ray's character, with Jason Bateman's character, where he starts off thinking of Hancock as a means to an end, and then comes to really care about him through the course of it, and he becomes a means unto himself. And so it starts as, well, if I can get people on board with Hancock, they'll pay attention to me with my own interests, with the heart thing and whatever else he might want to pitch. That's how you do that. Sort of like the female cop in Captain Invincible, which this movie feels like a bad remake of.
Yeah, to a degree. And it's really missing Christopher Lee.
Obviously it's not entirely that, and the people that made this probably have never seen that or heard of it. But yeah. It is. And hilariously, one of the other things that makes this a little bit less novel, because I came to Captain Invincible later, so when I found out that there was a movie in 1986 that has a washed-out drunk superhero that has given up on humanity and is brought back like a sequel to a movie we never saw, and like that character is a lot more sympathetic, and I understand where he's coming from, and I appreciate why he's like that at the beginning, and he doesn't have amnesia. Even as much of a farce and a ridiculous movie as that is, that hurts this really hard.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's just a better movie all around. You know what the sequence is, Cab? It's like a major plot point, but it feels like the Iron Man versus Thor fight in Avengers. Like it's only here for an action beat. Like as big as it is.
Yeah, and the director, sorry, I keep saying the director, I'm not even bringing up his name, Peter Berg. Peter Berg talks about this, and I just read excerpts of an interview. There's not a director commentary for this or anything, but he talks about this like these scenes he was not that interested in, which it plays on the screen. I mean, you can feel that through it. And again, he talks about it like what he really wanted to focus on was the character study. So he failed at that too, because it's not one of those. But it does feel like, I'm not saying this would be a great movie without the studio interference. Although maybe so, because the studio interference like brings you this director in the first place. Like, they went through a couple of directors who left because of creative differences. Not shocking.
Yeah, not shocking at all.
But what I want to say is, if you're not interested in the big typical summer blockbuster action, just don't make your movie like that. But his hands were tied. He was kind of forced to make that.
Yeah,
because they thought they needed that to sell it. And what's irritating is it worked. That's what I hate about the story of this movie, is everything that it has going against it is why it made $650 million at the box office.
Mm-hmm.
But the good thing is you couldn't do it again later. People have gotten wiser to this.
Yeah, and I was
just burn out on
to...
it, I guess. I don't want to give people too much credit.
I was just looking it up to confirm, because I saw his name as a producer, and I was like, what? But Michael Mann was like supposed to direct this at one point, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Also, when I was just looking at that, it said Dave Chappelle was originally considered for the lead of this.
Yeah, it almost played it.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's this really weird look. Jason pointed this out when we were watching it. He wanted to be here tonight, and he had a function to go to, so he could make it.
That's too bad.
But he made a really good point where he was like, what is the look on Jason Bateman's face when he sees them fighting? Because it looks like love triangle face.
Oh, I think that's exactly what it's supposed to be. Yeah, that's how it plays.
And it doesn't make a lot of sense, because it's not like he's seeing Hancock and his wife making out. What he's seeing is his wife has superpowers and is fighting Hancock. And then when you get to this scene, it's both. It's like he's upset because she never told him she had powers, and he's also upset because they used to be an item. It's like the movie does not know how to communicate anything through a performance.
Yeah, when I was watching it earlier today, I was like, oh, okay, so he sees them, and he sees that, like, he's on top of her, so I'm like, okay, so...
Oh, is that what it is?
He's jealous because he thinks that he was flying her around and, like, they get into the Hancock hanky-panky. And,
so they had very public sex, or at least very public, like, a makeout session that destroys property? That's what he thinks happened?
At least dry sex, yeah.
It's like, look, Jason Bateman's like, look, it never occurred to me that whenever you get aroused, there's tornadoes, but now it all makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. She's stormed.
I always thought it was weird, the sheer number of times tornadoes showed up when we were intimate. It's really weird.
He should have said that. He should have been like, it all makes sense now. But
that would have been great. This movie automatically goes up a point if that scene happens.
It was always weird how every time we were doing it, Jiffy Pop was popping. No, but then when we get to that scene and he's like, why were you flying? And I was like, oh, I didn't even get the impression that he knew that she was the one flying.
Yeah.
It's so just awkwardly presented.
Well, and again, getting ahead of myself, but there are a lot of lines that feel kind of jammed in to be throwaway explanations for arbitrary story points. So it's not characters making actions that have consequences that lead us from point A to B to C. It's stuff happens and then we need explanations for them, no matter how flimsy they are, right? So you've got this line that she has toward the end where she says that he's the hero between them. Like he can't help himself. He has to be heroic. I guess is an explanation for why she doesn't feel the same sense of power and responsibility that he does. And so like that makes her kind of unsympathetic and sort of a jerk, really, that like she has all this power, does nothing with it. She could also go out and help people like he does. And the explanation is, well, that's not how I was built. And so, like, what is the point of any of this then? Like, it feels like these characters just do what they were designed to do, and there's no interesting ambiguity about that, where it's like, do we have a choice? Do we not have a choice? No, it's annoyingly complicated. She says they do have a choice, but also the same character explains everything they do as we're built to do that. And there's no tragedy in that. There's no like we'd like to be better, but we can't be. Like it's like I don't want to read too much into it because I think all it is in the moment when she says something, it's to either explain something that's happened already or like why characters are or aren't doing something. It's like manufacturing an explanation for motivation, or it's there to try to manufacture the idea for the audience that the story is about more than it's about.
Yeah. Also, so in that last scene that just happened in that convenience store, that's another one of those places like that Jason Bateman one we were just talking about, where I think the way it's played is awkward in conveying what it's supposed to be. Where I feel like we're taking a turn that like he's gotten darker. He just like killed this man with a chocolate bar.
Yeah.
And, you know, the guy behind the counter...
I have questions about the physics of that, but move on. Go ahead.
No, and the guy behind the counter has this face like, oh my god, like, this horrific thing you just did. And then it's like, oh no, he got shot, and we're not going to address that at all. We're just going to move away from that.
Yeah, great point. Because again, we could go one step forward, two steps back. Like, keep making the audience question... does Hancock really have it in him to continue to be a better man?
Mm-hmm.
That's the story you should be telling. By your own setup, that's what this should be.
Yeah, no, exactly. And now we're gonna get really schmaltzy.
Yeah,
but
real
also.
sappy.
That gunshot was enough to, you know, put him in the hospital. I don't buy that he can jump out a window and get hit by a bus on the way down and survive it.
No, they're incredibly inconsistent about how much power he has or hasn't lost when he's around her, what the proximity is, how long it lasts or doesn't last.
Yeah, there's a split second, because I hadn't seen this since it came out originally, where I was like, oh, is this like a self-sacrifice thing? Where like maybe if he's not alive anymore, whatever their connection is doesn't count, and she can survive.
Yeah.
If he does that, but
also, wouldn't it have been massively ironic if he dies in this but isn't allowed to in I Am Legend?
Oh, he dies in I Am Legend.
Oh yeah, because that's the whole idea is that he should have lived, but they kill. Yeah,
yeah.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
Because now they're making the sequel, which is built off of the original ending, which is like on the menu of the DVD.
Yeah, that's unprecedented, right? We made a sequel to the not canonical version that I guess retroactively now we'll say is the canonical version. Do you think they'll release a cut that leaves it in before they make that movie?
Yeah, I would imagine so.
They'd have to, right? You know what? They'll go farther. They'll put it in the theater.
I was about to say exactly that, yeah. I mean, that is the book's ending, but, like, it's very strange.
You know, I'm a little surprised that there's not a moment where Will Smith goes up to somebody that won't stop calling him an asshole and says, you better get the word asshole out of your mouth.
Oh no.
I'm surprised he never says that, Austin.
Get asshole out your damn mouth.
Yeah. That's the quote. I quoted it incorrectly, excuse me.
I mean, I quoted it incorrectly because it's like hard to say.
It's
But
hard to
yeah.
say. Yeah, that's my obligatory, relatively recent cultural reference for this evening, Austin.
See, now that you say that, this whole relationship would work better if she looked like Voldemort.
Oh my god. Okay, we gotta move on now. It's unfortunate for Will Smith that this and I Am Legend were movies he made back to back, because they're both things with lots of potential that are ultimately, in my mind, massive failures as stories.
I agree.
I Am
It should
Legend has
be
a wonderful first act, or at least that's how I felt about it when I saw it in the theater. I haven't seen it in a long time, but like,
once they kill the dog, I'm out.
that first 30 minutes was dynamite, I thought, and then it just all went downhill from there. I was like, could we just live with this man where there's no other characters in the entire movie? Like,
And the dog doesn't die. Yeah, I agree. No, I think both of these movies, this and that, should have been home runs for him. Like it should have
Yes.
kicked off like a new era of his career, and instead it sparks the down period he's in.
Yeah, and you can't even really blame him for it in choosing these projects, because there's no reason they should have turned out the way they did.
No, no reason at all.
Like, his instincts were right on a premise level, and probably even on a script level. He almost certainly read better scripts when he chose these projects.
Yeah, because there's directing issues, I think, in both of those, like this and that too.
Yeah, and bad 11th hour changes.
Yep. Maybe after he does I Am Legend 2, he'll make Hancock 2.
Well, that was announced a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Seemed to be confirmed it was going to happen. I haven't heard anything about it since then.
Mhm.
If
I
you
think it's just been in development hell since this came out.
what should happen with that, Austin, especially in a post Kick-Ass, Deadpool, etc., world, you do the Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance thing, and you like full on remake it with the same actor.
Yeah, where it's basically a sequel to a movie that didn't happen.
Yeah. I say remake. You make a completely different movie with this character idea, but there are no rules. You can start completely over. It can be whatever you want it to be. And one of the reasons I would do that is make it an actual character study, of course, and more of an understated, smaller, intimate thing. But secondly, this is a man that's not supposed to age, and Will Smith is aging relatively gracefully, but it's been 16 years. If you make it not very related to this movie, you don't even have to deal with that. And you could even just make him not an immortal this time. Like, just say he's got superpowers, but he does age, or he ages up to middle-aged, and then, who knows after that, right? But, we don't even... if you don't make this a direct sequel to Hancock, then you don't have to even talk about that.
If you want to go the satirical comedy place too, you could also go back to that 12-year-old girl idea and do a parody of Logan.
Oh, that's not a bad idea. Now, obviously, I would much prefer they go the serious rated R route with it.
No, of course.
Because I think there's a movie there, and I think there's an audience for it. And back then, they didn't feel like there was enough of an audience, and it wouldn't make enough money. I don't think you get the blockbuster crowd now. I think you get the older, I almost want to say more sophisticated, kind of group, but just maybe even not that, maybe just the Deadpool crowd, but not all of them if it's serious, but you know what I mean. I don't understand the voice this guy is doing.
I think it's just his accent.
I feel like he's really putting on a heavy cartoonish kind of thing here. This quote unquote villain is so shoved in here.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It's like Clarence Boddicker if he was only in one scene before the scene where he dies.
Well, and the hook for a hand seems a little too absurdist for this material. Like, again, the movie just can't decide how absurd it wants to be. Because sometimes it's telling us, look, we're a more realistic, real-world kind of thing. In other scenes, it's the mask.
Well, I mean, that is a thing. Like, I think it's more so they go, this isn't like a character, so we got to give him something so that you like recognize him, and you like come out of the theater going, okay, I know this guy. He's the hook hand.
He's the guy with the hook for his hand. Yeah.
And now here's the Anchorman joke where he's like, you cut off my other hand.
Yeah, but it's also Bullseye. It's Bullseye if the fight happened in Kingpin's office with Bullseye and not Kingpin.
I guess it is Bullseye, but it's like straight up the exact same shot as Anchorman. But I guess that's true. I guess it is.
Well, I've never seen that
Bullseye thing too.
Well, that's probably just a coincidence, but everything about this climax here.
Well, Andy's wearing like a toque.
Yeah, that's true.
Kind of a hat, yeah. Maybe that guy will come back and play a Matt Reeves Batman villain.
I hope he uses that voice.
I hope so. We need more Irish villains.
And Dan Zen says that Eddie Marson is English, so it's not his accent. So he is putting on that Irish accent.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I thought he was Irish. The only other big thing that I know him from is he's the like inspector guy in the Downey Sherlock Holmes movies, and he is in.
I haven't seen that in so long.
The World's End, the third Cornetto trilogy movie, but for some reason I just thought he was Irish.
I don't know. I'm supposed to have feelings right now, Austin.
You're supposed to be moved. This is a Sony picture.
Oh, it is. That's a good point. Yeah, I think it's a little before they were using that, but they still have. That's the attitude they have.
Steven is doing some of the like slow-mo stuff that's in the ending of I Am Legend.
Yeah.
I've never thought to like compare these two movies, but like, they are a little similar.
Andy's
gonna run through a window. Like,
it does not feel like the same movie we started with.
Yeah.
He's really lucky that bus didn't run him over. But yeah, this is supposed to be really tragic that like he's got to run off and not be with her, and I'm like, okay, but is the audience at any point wishing those two characters would get to be together? Like, again, A, they don't really have any chemistry, and B, I don't like the way she treats him when she finally decides to tell him, and then C, are we supposed to just say, like, screw Jason Bateman's character? Because I feel like he's supposed to be, however I feel about that character, because I don't really feel much about any of these characters, he's supposed to be the eyes in and the kind of, human perspective. So the tragedy should be that guy loses his wife.
Yeah, no, by this point I'm wishing that both of them die so that it's just ultimately a tragedy.
So I don't get what's tragic about this. I mean, I guess just the fact that like he's always going to have to be alone, but then you would want to play up how good she still is for Jason Bateman's character and how much they care about each other. Like the emphasis is not in the right place.
So you said this had a lot of reshoots. Do you think this has the I Am Legend thing where like it tested badly for having a darker ending?
I wonder about that.
And then they get like way too happy?
Yeah, maybe. Well, and reshoots to the point where they had to move the release date because they were doing reshoots like a week before what that release date was supposed to be.
Jesus.
Yeah, nuts.
So
and yeah, the heart thing on the moon just doesn't play. Like,
no, it doesn't at all. That's also like you're talking about things that feel like too over the top.
Yeah.
This is a tick joke.
It is a tick joke. Like, so he just like Chairface, he vandalizes the moon, and it's supposed to be moving because now he's got like this undeniable advertising But that's not going to be good for Ray. Everybody's going to hate him for that.
And what did he do?
What do you mean?
Like, how did he make that? Like, it looks like just somebody, like, reached up to the sky and drew a heart on it with a Sharpie, like a Looney Tunes cartoon.
If he actually went there and did that, that's a crap ton of paint. So that's a lot of What did he do to the moon?
Could you paint the moon? I guess it's got like low enough gravity that you probably could, but I don't know. It's strange.
And then, despite this really generic, sappy, triumphant music, this is like the Daredevil ending.
Yeah,
where he's like flipping around the buildings and.
Well, it's very like Spider-Man in that way, where like that's the final swing.
Yeah, but it feels more like Daredevil because it's at night, and just the way the camera tracks it is a lot like that.
Oh, it's also like the end of Incredible Hulk, and it's the same year as this.
Oh, good call. And like, this is like 15 different themes at the same time. Like, there's some pirates in this, and
this is the main theme to the superhero named Superhero.
Yes, yes, it is. I want to make that movie. I'm gonna make Superhero. So how come this criminal in this mid-credit scene is the funniest character in the movie?
I don't know. I actually turned it off before this happened. I didn't know that there was a thing here.
Yeah, he calls him hand job.
Oh.
Which isn't funny on its face, but the delivery is kind of funny.
Okay, I agree. That is entirely made in the delivery.
You know what I want to think? I want to think that there's yet even a longer version that could have been on, I don't know, maybe a 2-disc unrated edition.
Can Hancock 2 just
where this guy is Coolio and has a whole subplot.
Can Hancock 2 just be the two of these guys and they're like the superhero bad boys?
I would love that. That'd be great.
Okay, so Johnny Galecki, the guy from Big Bang Theory, is mentioned as like one of the like 6 actors they put up front there. He definitely had more stuff that was cut.
Yeah. He wasn't just hanging out at that party. Maybe he had a Coolio subplot.
Akiva Goldsman and Michael Mann were executives.
I know. Boo. Akiva Goldsman.
No, I meant like they were in the movie playing executives, but also yes, they were.
But yeah, he also produced the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, he got brought on to work on Picard because only the people lame enough to show up showed up.
Hey, I'm sure they announced it with Oscar-winning writer Akiva Goldsman.
Yeah. Picard gave us great talent like Akiva Goldsman and Alan McElroy.
Akiva Goldsman also led the writer's room for Transformers 5, the last Michael Bay movie.
Good job, Akiva Goldsman. Way to go. Way to make your paycheck. President of the Failing Upward Society.
The like founder of that society.
Yeah. This is one of those movies that is just kind of baffling to me in the way it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It feels like you would almost have to work at making it this disjointed and tonally at odds with itself and
I agree.
It's really interesting how I know I made this point, but it's really interesting how the soundtrack reflects the ways in which it's 15 different movies. You know, it's weird that even down to the soundtrack, you know, it's like the music choices were made by committee. Just like maybe the story was put together.
I don't think I've ever seen this in the credits. You know how it's like, assistant to whoever, like costumer for whoever?
Yeah.
It's like Will Smith's, and then colon, and then it lists all of them. And then it's like Charlize Theron's, and then it lists all of them. I don't think I've ever seen it put like that.
Oh, okay.
Weird.
Well, I wish they had a special thanks at the end of this movie and they had Ben Edlund in there for Moon
For
Joke.
the moon. Yes, who would be the people in like the Marvel DC style special thanks credit for this movie?
Well, I mean, I don't know.
Edlund?
As far as comic creators go, I feel like they would have to credit a lot of movie stuff. You know, they'd have to credit like Bryan Singer,
The creator of Superhero too. Be on there.
They'd have to credit the whoever made the superhero movie.
I mean, hopefully. And they'd have to credit whoever made Disaster movie because
They'd have to credit Donner
came
and
in
Lester, and Shyamalan.
With Bill Finger. Raimi would probably get in there. Maybe Mark Steven Johnson.
But yeah, Austin, this is also one of those movies where I'm not in a dismissive place with it, where I'm like, you know, oh god, this just sucks, let's move on. Like, there's a lot of stuff that you could have drawn out front and made work with this.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, I agree. Like, it's not dismissive in the way that you watch a bad movie that just kind of washes over you. Like, it's, if anything, I maybe find it more frustrating in that way.
Yeah, it's
like,
really disappointing.
You're watching it, you're like, oh my god, like here's all these pieces. Like I just want to put the Lego together.
Yep,
you know, put
that's
the
it. Yeah, but
I wish they could play Tetris a little bit better.
Yeah, no, that's a great analogy because I was gonna say that's why I found myself going in a million different places in suggestions. Like all I can do is pitch a bunch of different movies.
Mm-hmm.
Because you grab a thread and you go, well, here's clearly what that movie would be.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a very clearly a script that sat in a drawer since the 90s.
Yeah. And then was just, you know, kind of like patchworked together with too many rewrites.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It reminds me of there's a John Carpenter interview I saw a while ago where he talked about how there's just like a ton of scripts that he's written that are just sitting in drawers, and like every now and then one of them will be made. And he was saying that a director for one of them called him up and he was like, "Hey, like I'm having this issue. Like, how do I fix this?" And he's like, "Well, like here's how you like took elements out of it so now it doesn't make sense anymore. Like there's literally nothing you can do to fix what you have. Like you've patchworked my script too many times that it doesn't make sense." Like
yeah, now it's not mine anymore.
Yeah,
and like, it's all Frankenstein together. It's actually kind of funny that Frankenstein is evoked in this because that's exactly what this movie is.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, you have my ending but not the setup to it. Like of course it doesn't work.
Okay, so this is amazing.
Something like that.
Sorry. I'm looking at the menu for the special features, and this was a DVD, right?
Mm-hmm.
That I have, but at the top, there's a. I kind of want to watch it. There's a special feature that says Blu-ray disc is high definition. And Blu-ray disc has the trademark symbol next to it.
Yes.
This was during the period where you had the really brief war between HD, DVD, and Blu-ray. Mm-hmm. And that war was won, I want to say, the summer this came out. Or maybe the year before.
It might be right after, because a big thing that they like really used for Blu-ray was Dark Knight.
Yeah.
So it might be like the year after. Like, and I feel like this might have been one of them too. There was like a bunch of movies, like I think The Third Pirates was one of them as well. It was in a lot of the Bluray trailers. It's like this kind of era. Like
this is a commercial trying to get you to buy Blu-rays. I'm gonna look at this for a second.
Do it.
Changing the way you watch movies. Yeah, and it's got a big watermark in the corner for Blu-ray disc trademark, and it's just showing a bunch of movies. What's funny about a commercial like this? I'm doing a commentary for a commercial nobody's watching. What's funny about Austin, a commercial like this, is they're desperately trying to sell you on look how much prettier Blu-ray is, but you're still watching
You're
it
watching
on
on
the
a DVD.
quality, like the best quality your DVD can possibly be. And the best thing, this isn't doing this yet, but the best thing is when they try to show you a side-by-side comparison.
Or when it does like the slide, like the wipe, where it's
Yeah.
like, look at this crappy DVD quality. Now it's Blu-ray.
And you're like, okay, but I'm still watching in DVD quality, which means you took a 720 image and you made it 480, and then you went to 720 on the other side. Like, that's what you did. Or 1080 or whatever.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what they did.
It's so good.
I hope that
Blu-ray
commercial
disc
ends
is
with-
high def.
I hope that commercial ends with Jason Bateman looking up at the moon and the Blu-ray logo is put on it.
What the hell is Water Horse? They're selling all these movies I've
Water
never
Horse, I
heard
remember
of.
that.
What Water Horse? The something of the Legend of the Deep.
I don't remember that one. I remember Water Horse. My one brother used to watch that a lot.
Oh, and then they've got one for Men in Black. Walk Hard. They're showing you what
the parody one?
Yes, they're showing you what the
Here.
Blu-ray. They're showing you what the menus look like.
I'm pretty sure Walk Hard bombed. Why is that one of the ones they're using? Not exactly coming out with the heavy hitters here.
No, they're really not. Anyway, I'm being distracted by this.
Don't you want to see Walk Hard and the Legend of the Deep in the highest quality?
If I thought I could get away with it, I would upload this with like a mini commentary over it because it's really funny. I wish I could show you guys this.
That sounds great.
Dan's Den, one of the best things that came out of Hancock was that story of those guys in Britain putting up the billboard for it, and they stopped midway to take a break. I've heard about this. So for a while, it was just called Cock.
That's great.
It was called Hand Job. Okay, Austin.
I'm not even the one making these jokes.
I know. I'm in a mood today. Austin, let's.
You're in a real cock and hand job mood.
Let's go to ratings. We'll go to if we have any tweet length reviews at all, we'll hit those.
I know we have a Patreon one because Chewbacca's lover said he left it and like pretty early on was like, "Oh, I feel awkward about mine now."
Well, I'll read that. He didn't say he loved it, but so his says. I remember really liking it when I saw it. Didn't even mind the ending, but it's been over a decade. I'll just risk humiliation and give it a hero.
I mean, that's not humiliating. Like you watched it over a decade ago at this point.
No, we got 10 minutes into this commentary, and he was like, "God, based on the way you guys are talking, I'm already regretting what I wrote."
Yeah, because I didn't see what the reviews, so just judging by that, I'm like, oh, is this review just like, this is the greatest movie ever, I watch it every day?
No, he's self-deprecating in it. He's even saying, like, it probably sucks, but I haven't seen it in a long time. That's fair. That's perfectly fair.
Completely fair.
No, it would be more disingenuous to go, everybody says this sucks, so villain. You know, like, you base it on the last time that you saw it, and then you say, I don't know if I'm right about this. And you're like, no, that's perfectly proper.
Yeah, I mean, even if you like it, like,
well, yeah, I mean,
there's stuff like we're like picking pieces off it where we're like, wouldn't this be more interesting? Like, you can look at that and be like, that's why I like it. Like, there's so many ideas that I like.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
I will say it's definitely a couple of notches still over Jumper. Like, it's not that kind of watch. Mm-hmm. It is baffling in some of the same ways, but it feels more like an actual movie than that.
Yeah, no, it's not as bad as Jumper.
Like, that's even more pieced together and just a thing, and then another thing happens, and then another thing happens.
Jumper is like the Asylum version of Hancock.
That's great. Yeah, this feels coherent compared to that.
Mm-hmm. I guess that's the difference between Simon Kinberg and Akiva Goldsman.
Wow, and you know, here I was thinking they were the same person.
No, it's like they're like slightly off. It's like not exactly.
Austin, do you see anything in Discord?
Yes, we have 2 on Discord.
Okay, would you read those for us?
So Goofster123 says Hancock feels like it came out too early, and maybe it would have been more popular if it came out during the height of Injustice and The Boys. That said, the first half is fun and interesting, but Charlize Theron's character takes it into the gutter. Rating villain.
Wow. Yeah, no, I stand by what I said earlier. Given how much money this made, I think it came out at exactly the right time.
Mm-hmm.
It would have felt like just another, um, kind of generic attempt at superhero in the real world, or uh, turning the tropes on their heads again. If it came out any time after that.
Mm-hmm.
I
And
even
then,
think I even think if you look at a
yeah,
couple of
okay.
movies that came out after this, if they had come out a couple years earlier, they'd do better. I think The Spirit probably does a little better if it comes out 2 or 3 years before it did.
Closer to like Sin City.
Yeah.
No, that's fair. Doolittle says, "Oof, that's
Oof.
not a very good movie, and it could have been hilarious." That's it.
Well, that's what's so weird about this is it's making a case inside of it both for running with kind of big budget sitcom,
Hmm.
which I'm not opposed to if it's funny. It could be that, or it could be really dark and moody and tragic, and it wants to be both of those at different times.
Hmm.
I love
Or
what you
like
said
if it,
about Lester. It really does feel like watching Donner and Lester having a fist fight on screen.
and then Lester throws a cellophane S into Richard Donner's face and takes
The
over.
Lester, look, when you get to Heart on the Moon somehow, Lester has won this fight. Lester mopped the floor with Donner, and we ended up with Hancock. That's what
Lester
happened.
Lester started teleporting around the room, and Donner was like, "I'm out."
That is my favorite point you've made in a while. I'm jealous of that. That's really funny.
That just hit me in the moment. I was like, "Wait a minute."
It's just true. It's just correct.
No, it is just true. That's why it's funny.
Okay, were those the only two?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, let's go ahead and go down to our ratings now. I bet we'll land on the same, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, and I'm kind of struggling.
You want to go for? Oh, I'm not at all. I've been in about the same place the whole time, and I've not budged on it. So do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first? Since you're
Uh,
struggling,
I mean, I can go first. It's up to you, whatever you'd prefer.
no, go ahead.
So I'm either a high or a low, and I'm going to say that because I find it more frustrating that there are pieces that like I could see making a good movie, I'm probably like a high nemesis.
Oh wow.
Just because like I feel like I'm not watching a movie, like I'm just going, oh my god, like I just want to stop the movie and just like reorganize it and like
Yeah.
completely rework it. On paper though, like I think you could genuinely have a great superhero movie here.
Yeah, I can't go all the way down to Nemesis. I'm in a villain with it.
Well, that's probably more fair, but I don't know. I had like a really bad viewing, so
I found it. I mean, I had the worst viewing I've ever had,
hmm
certainly. But you get into sort of a comparative place with it where you're like, well, I mean, other things I would think to put at Nemesis. I don't, I don't know if I come close to hating this as much as. And
hmm
again, I'm more frustrated than at a hatred place.
yeah, yeah, no, exactly. So then like that becomes hard. I don't know.
But I mean, I don't want to watch it again.
Yeah, that's the big thing is I'm like I just don't want to watch it like ever. I'm
But
cool thinking about it,
I do have
but
to say, with our rating system, I don't think you can say high nemesis. I feel that's like a F plus. You don't get an F plus. You get an F. Okay. You can have a low villain. That's a D minus. You don't get a high. There is no such thing as a high or a low nemesis. Nemesis is just nemesis.
no,
Okay.
it's like you failed, but you were like 1% away.
That's like saying you're waiting in the volcano. No, you're dead. You're in a volcano. Okay.
No, if the director came to me right now and pulled a Bart Simpson where he showed knowledge, then it maybe could bump it up into a villain.
Oh.
Uh,
Okay. All
this
right.
is the
So he just
director
gave
of
you a
Battleship gets an F.
he he just gave you a suit that lets you withstand the lava.
Hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm at villain on it. It's actually harder to rate to me than it is to rank. How low do you go? Have you already ranked it?
I already put it in, yeah.
Okay, let's take a look at it. Do you want to move it at all?
Um, hold on. I might move one of them. I don't think I'm gonna move that. Uh, no, I'm good. Sorry, I'm hemming and hawing.
No, you're fine. I thought I set this up and I didn't. Once again, we're at a black screen.
Okay, no, I was looking at Origins under Fantastic Four, and I was like, would I rather watch Origins over Fantastic Four? Maybe, I don't know, maybe not.
Yeah, I'm
just gonna
struggling
leave
with
it
this
under.
one. Right now, I've got it at 30, right above Spawn.
Oh, okay.
And that also puts it above Superman Doomsday and X-Men Origins. Where do you land on that? Is this better or worse than Origins?
I put it just under Origins.
Just under Origins. See, I'm back and forth on that. That's tough.
It is really tough.
I feel like Hancock can easily, for me, it could easily go in the 31 or the 34 spot.
The big thing I can give you is that it's better than Jumper. Outside of that, I don't know.
And you put it... Oh, hold on. I've got to refresh my page. I don't see it yet. I started scrolling up, and I was like, well, there's no way he has it that high. Oh, no, so you put it... it's second to the end.
Yeah.
Well, then a Nemesis rating is absolutely fair.
Yeah.
I'm also admittedly not basing my rankings enough on what our actual ratings are, because I don't always remember exactly where I went.
Yeah, well, I don't typically think of that. Like, I normally just go, this is about what I would give it, and then I look at the list afterwards, and I'm like, it's probably like there, I guess.
I feel like to be consistent, they probably should, like you should probably bunch up your nemesis all together and your villains all together, and
yeah, and I know at some point I'll probably be inconsistent and mess that up, but
yeah,
it's fine. We're all infallible. I'm looking at our list though. I have 36 and you have 34, so I think you're missing 2.
I must be. I gotta go in and compare to yours and figure out what I'm missing.
Yeah. So I'm not sure.
Well, I might only be missing 1 because I think you ranked. Well, no, I've got both parts of Dark Knight Returns here too. What am I missing? I'll compare it next to yours. Or wait, maybe you... No, I was looking at your list. Maybe mine doesn't have that.
No, you only have one part of it, so that's at least one of those.
Because I ranked them together. That's why we're off. I ranked it as one movie.
Yeah.
But I could just put them both together next to each other so that our numbers line up. I'll probably do that.
Yeah, it's not like it matters that much. I put them side by side just because...
no, that's fair. I want to do it the way you did so that
done.
I'm not confused about this every time. But I'll figure out what the other thing is. Is it Hercules?
No, I think I saw Hercules in yours.
No, I've got Hercules. I don't know what I'm missing. I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess that does it besides figuring out what we're doing for next time, yeah?
Yeah, I think so. And Bob the Hunt's giving us crap for...
We have lots of little segments right at the end of this.
And Bob the Hunt's giving us crap for putting Superman Doomsday that low. I don't know.
Well, you're the only person I've ever talked to that's giving me crap for anything I've said about that movie. Really? I say that. That's probably not true. I'm probably just not remembering. But I think most people don't care for that.
Yeah, if people even remember it exists.
We had, every time I see it, I have a worse viewing with it. And we had a really bad viewing of it.
Yeah, that was the first time I'd ever seen it. I was like, oh, this is like bad. Okay.
Like, wow, Cap, you weren't kidding, man. Why are we watching this? Okay, so tonight, Austin and I are going to pick our movie for next time in a way we've never done it before. We keep getting really gimmicky with this. We're trying to come up with different ways to do it. And this time, Austin and I, we're not going to the producers. We'll do that next time. We'll let you guys help us pick again for the one after this, more than likely. But I got to figure out how things line up. But I guess we don't have any other movies toward the end of the year where we're gonna want to do something ahead. Like, we probably should have done one of the Venoms.
Well, we probably should have done Hellboy, but like at this point, it's like whatever.
That too, yeah. And we wanted to try to get Hulk in before the end of the year because we missed the anniversary on that. But I don't know if that'll happen now. We'll figure out what we're doing next time. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Austin and I each chose a movie that we would like to see happen next week, and we're going to simply flip a coin. It's going to be.
Well, I picked 6 movies and then rolled a die to pick one to be on the coin.
Yeah, I just picked
Indecisive.
one. But the movies we picked happen to have a theme between them, which is they both came out the same year.
They're both Marvel.
And they're both Marvel things. So, Austin, what did you choose?
I picked, by help from a die, Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance.
And I picked Captain America First Avenger. So, Austin, would you like heads or tails, sir?
I mean, heads always wins, so I definitely want heads.
Okay. So we're gonna two-face it here.
Statistical fact.
We're gonna two-face it, and I'm going to flip a digital coin so that it's fair. Everybody can see what the flip is, and you'll have to believe me. So here we go. I'm flipping the coin. So you got heads, I got tails. So if it's heads, it's Spirit of Vengeance. Here we go.
Which is rough for you because it's like an 80-20% chance for me for it to be heads. But we'll see.
Let's see what happens. And it comes up tails.
Ah, in the 20%.
I got you, sir.
Rough.
Well, you say it's rough. I mean, that's a fun enough movie.
No, I just mean that I'm shocked it wasn't heads. It's always heads, but
it's just rough that you lost the coin toss.
It is, yeah. No, I feel like I just lost the big game. I gotta go punch my wife.
Wow.
But no, they're both really good movies, so I'm in.
Well, I will say I don't enjoy Spirit of Vengeance as much as you do, so I do feel like I kind of won out on this one.
No, we're exactly flipped. I like Spirit of Vengeance more than First Avenger, and you like First Avenger more.
Oh, do you really?
Vengeance. Oh yeah,
that's fair. I just didn't know that.
It's so good.
Well, and we'll have stuff to complain about with that movie. Like, it's not perfect. We famously that ending's got issues. But there's a lot of fun to be had with it, and I've just been in the mood to go back and watch those with Brave New World coming out next year. Like, watching that trailer the other day for the Captain Logan show had me going, I kind of want to watch Winter Soldier. And then I went, when the coin flip came up, I was like, well, I'm not going to pick Winter Soldier. Not that we're intentionally doing any of this in order necessarily, because we have been jumping around a lot, but I was like, if I'm going to do Captain America, I'll just go back to the beginning. So.
And I did not put Spirit of Vengeance on there because, like, there's 8 million articles about how Jennifer Cale in the MCU was going to introduce Johnny Blaze because they're cousins in the comics.
Oh.
Nope.
I don't totally understand what you just said. You said you didn't pick, you did pick Spirit of I don't understand.
No, I'm saying I didn't do it because of that.
Oh, that's not the reason you did it. I see.
She's in Agatha. That's like one of my favorite Marvel characters, and they basically picked a name out of a hat.
Of course they did.
Yep.
Well, folks, thanks for watching. If you're watching live or after the fact, appreciate you. Thanks for the support tonight from Super Chatters, and thanks a lot to patrons. If you'd like to support the show, patreon.com/geekvolution. The $5 tier lets you put in tweet-linked reviews. The $10 tier makes you a Patreon producer that has some extra perks, and one of those is I'll read your name dramatically at the end of every episode of the Commentary Project. And just the $2 tier helps us out as well, and gives you access to After Dark, which we haven't done in a while and need to do one, but more of those will happen, and other fun stuff. Anyway, so now thanks very much to all of our producers, including Breezy Hemi, Jesse Surtees, Chewbacca's Lover, Dr. Hello, Goofster123, Joe Turner, Jojira, John Matthew McLean, Super Billy, Amalgam Nation, Vic Apocalypse, Victor, Abic Stark, Adam March, Damon Begay, Hot Soup, Invisipig, John Sandoval, Kareem Roberts, Kate, MattBat68, Matthew Brody, Michael Martin, Miguel Rodriguez, this guy, The Day Ghost, and Wendell Jones. Appreciate you guys. We will see you again next week with another one, and First Avenger. That's fun. How many MCUs have you and I done for the commentary project so far? I feel like none, maybe.
One.
Well, do we do Doctor Strange?
We did Doctor Strange.
We did Madness, right?
Yeah, so it's just that.
It's just that. It's the only one we've done so far. Out of 33 shows.
I genuinely thought maybe we'd done another one, but no, it's just that.
I guess not.
I think it's because we've done a lot of Marvel. Like, it might be a little, like, swayed where I feel like we've done more Marvel than DC, but...
Isn't that crazy, though? It's kind of nice, though. It's kind of appropriate, because I had the Marvel Manias. And so, like, we have lots of MCU commentaries on the channel. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad that we ended up front-loading a bunch of stuff that we never made commentaries for, or that we hadn't talked about in a long time. Because obviously, we've done a lot of things that I've hit before, in as a commentary. But a lot of stuff we never had, like The Shadow and some of those. It seems like somehow we ended up doing a lot of the like pulp and prototype hero things.
Yeah, early. I feel like most of what we've done is either Marvel or
independent,
like neither. Yeah, and then like some DC sprinkled in there.
Yeah, and just because there's so much Batman, you end up with some Batman. So I want to say we've probably done 5 or 6 already. Batmans. We got Returns. We got Dark Knight Returns. We got Batman Ninja. Is that it?
Yeah, we got 8 DC movies overall because we have Joker, Doomsday, Batman Ninja, Return of the Joker. Oh, and I missed that one.
Oh, Return of the Joker. That's a
Gods
Batman
and
movie.
Monsters.
There you go.
Dark Knight Returns, both Burden films, and then that's it.
Oh, that's right, because I opened this with 89 by myself.
Yeah, and I have it included since there's no real reason for us to do it, but...
Sure. But so that means we've done 5 Batmans, then. Okay. Anyway. Well, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you again real soon. I was Captain Logan, and this was Austin, the Day Ghost.
Yeah, good night, everybody.
Good evening, folks.